Well, mate, I want to start off by saying how excited we are about you coming back to Australia for these very special shows, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you feel about heading back down under.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I think the last time I was there, we had a really good run of shows and had some great times and good laughs. And I don't expect that this run will be any different than that. I think it's fantastic. And the shows, the tour, the band is playing great. And we haven't played this particular set in a while, so it's going to be very fresh and exciting for us too. And yeah, I'm just really, really excited.
The thing that hit me last time when you came to Australia was just how many fans out there you have. I remember the buzz, even here at the radio station, with listeners requesting songs in the lead up to the tour. Were you aware of how adored you are here in Australia?
Word? Oh, that's a strong word. Well, not really. I know we get a lot of fan mail from Australia. Get a lot of likes on Facebook and social media. So yeah, it's a great place to tour, and it seems like people really like the music there. So I'll keep coming back as long as I can.
Now, you mentioned that you haven't played these sets in a long, long time. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about, first of all, why you've decided to do 2 albums in the one night. That sounds like an absolutely huge task. Where did that idea come from?
Well, we started off with the 30th anniversary of the Empire Tour in 2020, of all times. And that was cut short by the worldwide pandemic. And so we're just now catching up to all the places that had booked the show and promoters that had bought the show. So we're in the final stage now. I think I was place that we had contracted to play the Empire album. And I put Rage for Order in there because I just wanted to do it. I love the album, and I always wanted to play the whole thing. And so it's really selfish, I know, but I just.
What was it about that album that made you want to play it in whole? Was there something about it that really stood out to you?
Well, I never got to.
Yep.
Typically what we would do is with each album release, we would pick maybe one songs from that new album, and we would add it to our existing set list.
Yep.
And then you'd move on to the next album you made, and you do the same. So your set list kind of kept growing, but you never got a chance to really play all the music. So I wanted to play it in its entirety because I love every song on the record. And so, again, it was completely a selfish decision, and I'm standing by it. I love it.
Yeah. As a musician, does it feel different when you get up and play an album in its entirety to, say, a show where you're just playing the greatest hits or something like that? Does it feel different to you, especially from a creative point of view?
To do what? To play what?
To play an album in its entirety at a show rather than to play a show that's just the greatest hits or something like that.
Yeah, it is different because typically an album will have a certain ambiance or a certain mood attached to it. And so you get to sort of hang in that mood for 45 minutes to an hour, and like the contrast between Rage for Order and Empire is they're 2 very different records, and you really feel it when we take a short intermission between the 2 albums, and we come back on and we launch into Empire, and it's a different animal, than what Rage for Order is. And not only the band feels it, but the audience feels it as well. It's pretty dramatic, you know.
Yeah.
The differences between the songs and the presentation and everything. But yeah, I think it is quite different.
Yeah.
I think the Rage for Order album is very serious, you know, and somewhat tragic and melodramatic. And Empire is a lot more, I don't know, more up, you know, like a little bit lighter, free on the lyrical content, you know, and a lot of things. Yeah. So yeah, they're quite a difference.
One of the things that I know some of the Australian bands noticed when they started to play 30th anniversary and 20th anniversary shows for albums was that there were some tracks on those albums that had never been played live before. Was that something that you found when you first started these run of shows as well, that some of these tracks that had never been played live before?
Yeah. Quite a few, actually. Quite a few songs, and I wanted to play Rage. I think with Queensryche, I think we played Walk in the Shadows and I think Screaming in Digital. I think maybe once or twice we played Neue Regal, and that was it. You know, yeah. So there's a lot of really cool music, a lot of great music on that album, you know, that I really wanted to play.
Yep. The other thing I find a lot with songs that I wrote a long time ago, if I bring them out now and start to mess around with them, they bring up memories from the past as well. When you're going back 30 years into your career to pull out an album to play like this, does it bring up memories of that time, and how do you deal with that, especially if it's some of the sadder memories?
Yeah, it does. It does dredge up some stuff. Yeah, it really can. Now that I've performed the albums a number of times, I don't have the same sort of gut-wrenching horror,
yeah,
you know, emotional onslaught that I did at the beginning. Yeah, I can get through them now without my voice sort of shaking at times. Yeah. But yeah, when we first started performing some of the songs on Rage, I was like, "Oh my God, am I going to be able to do this? You know, am I going to be able to get through it emotionally?" Just recently, I played a show in Belfast, Ireland, and the promoter really wanted us to play the Promised Land album in its entirety, which we did, and nothing prepared me for that. That was like an onslaught of heavy emotion playing that album. And I at times I was tearing up, and the audience was tearing up, and it was just like, I don't know, I think we probably all needed therapy afterwards.
Yeah. How do you deal with that? Like you said, the audience were tearing up as well, so it was kind of like you were on a journey with the audience, but there would have been rehearsals and that before that as well. How do you deal with those emotions and, I guess, try to keep them in check as much as you can?
Well, I think what it is you know, there's this really strong energy exchange between performer and audience that happens, and I think if you're performing an emotional song, they reflect that back at you, and so you feel it like times 10. You know,
yep.
And because you're feeling it times 10, you transmit that to them times 10, and so it becomes this domino effect. You know, where everybody's pulling out the handkerchiefs at the same time, you know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't quite understand it, but there must be some kind of science attached to it.
Yeah. So with Rage for Order, that is one of the most complex and layered albums that you guys ever put together. What kind of, not problems, I guess that's not the right word, but what kind of challenges did that produce for the band to play these tracks live with them being so complex?
Well, it took a lot of rehearsal. Yeah. Like all of my records, Queensryche music is very complex, and a lot of times it doesn't sound that way. But when you actually go to play it, you realize that like the two guitar attack, they're not playing the same thing. They're playing extensions of chords, and they're playing around each other at times, you know. And and then you got Rock and Phil's parts, which are maddening. You know, they're just insane what he does. He takes like a very complex rhythm that makes it sound sort of simple because it's easy for him. He just moves that way, right?
Yep.
So yeah, you have to find the right people to handle the job. You know, and I had discovered this fantastic drummer several years ago. He's been playing with me for like 4 years now. His name is Danny Laverde, and he's just a monster player. He can play anything, any style. It's phenomenal to me. You know, you see people that just move rhythmically. You know, it's easy for them to think in math terms like that. You know,
yeah.
And that's the way he is. He's also an incredibly good dancer.
Yeah,
which is probably why he moves so effortlessly. You know.
Yeah. One of the things I find talking to drummers at the moment as well is that their bodies are in such great shape because they had that 2 years off during the pandemic. I know a couple of drummers have said to me that they feel fresher now than what they've ever felt in their career. What was that time like for you guys with the band? Because you tour so heavily. What was that like having 2 years of not being on the road?
Well, we weren't actually off the road that long. Because different countries had different rules at different times. And so we found ourselves in Ireland for a while. Certain countries in Europe were open. Canada was open here and there. The United States closed down, but then opened up in certain states. So we kind of kept going in a sense. I think the longest period of time we had off was maybe 4 months,
yep.
Something like that. And honestly, I was just ready to, you know, shoot myself, you know, at 4 months with being in the same place.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I hadn't done that since I don't know, maybe 90 or maybe 87 or 82 or something.
Yeah.
Like that. It's been a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find yourself feeling creative during that time at all, or is that a big no? Because I know some people seem to find the creative juices started flowing, and then others were like, no, I couldn't write anything during that time period because it just felt so boring.
Yeah, I was kind of both. I worked some and I took time off as well and did other things that needed to be done, like things I'd been putting off for years and years. Like my wife and I sold a house and bought another one and moved all our stuff around, and I cleaned out my garage, you know, things like that. Because honestly, I tour so much that I just keep stuffing stuff in the garage, right? It's
yep.
just piles and piles of things that I'm going to get to one day. And yeah, it's very mundane, but that also kind of felt good to sort of purge myself of that responsibility, you know.
Yeah, I've got a junk room here that's exactly the same. It's supposed to be my office, and it's just had stuff piled up into it over the years. And even this Christmas, I said, oh, I've got a month off, I'll get around to it. Well, my holidays are over, and I never got around to it. So it's nice to know that you go through the same thing.
Yeah, it feels good once you do get it done.
Yep.
And leading up to it, there's so much drama, you know.
Jeff, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was we've been talking about Empire and saying it's the 30th anniversary. There aren't many bands around these days that get to talk about 30th anniversaries and things like that because they end within 4 or 5 years. What's that been like for you, being a working musician and a successful musician for that period of time? Did you think back then that you would still be playing these tracks 30 years later?
Well, I never really thought much about it, honestly. I was always very motivated to create new music and to perform it. And it's really just been my life's work and my life's focus, really. I don't really know how to do other things as well, and I don't have a particularly strong drive to do other things other than music either.
Yep.
So I guess it's a good fit for me, you know. And I I have to say, I'm very proud of the 30 years of records and songs and touring that Queensryche came out with. I think we created some really interesting music, and we toured a lot of places and made a lot of friends and met a lot of people on the way. And I'm very proud of our body of work.
Yeah. Talking of touring in a lot of different places, we kind of touched on it earlier, but do you have fond memories of touring in Australia over the years?
Yeah, I do. I'm relatively new to touring in Australia. I think as with Queensryche, we came once, I believe.
Yep.
And that was in the 2000s, I believe. But before that, we had never got there. So yeah, I've been kind of making it my purpose in life to go to possibly can. And so far, I've been to 65, and this year I think I'm going to go to 66, 67, 68, and maybe 69. So I'm really looking forward to the new places too.
Definitely, definitely. What do you like when you visit a new place? Are you someone that likes to take time away from the stage to go and explore where you are, or do you find normally that the tour schedule's so heavy that you don't get a chance to?
Oh, I try to design the tour schedule around my free time to sightsee and travel and wine taste and see the sights of where I'm at. Yeah, I try to structure it that way.
Awesome.
The stage time is my band is so tight and good. I don't even have to think about them. You know, they always nail the music every night, and for me, I just have to do my thing, and it's honestly quite enjoyable. You know, and I try not to think about it too much until it's an hour before stage time. You know.
Definitely. Well, Geoff, I know we are running out of time very, very quickly. So to finish off, I would like to ask, what would you like to say to all of your fans out there that are so excited about you heading back down under for these very special shows?
Oh, I'm so excited to come, and I really thank everybody for listening to the music all these years and coming to the shows. It's going to be a great time, and I can't wait to see everybody.